The affirmative side has made statements about how NASA's funding should be cut in half. Many of the statements made are unjust and jump to conclusions. They talk about how some of NASA's spending is used recklessly without just cause. They also say that all of NASA's work could be done by private companies. Also, how we should explore all of the Earth before we explore space. All of those statements carry very little truth. If not for NASA, we would not have won the space race to the moon, the Hubble telescope would never have been made, and countless other discoveries would be unknown to us. NASA has been a large part of America's history and should not lose their funding. It is said that rockets hurt the ozone layer. This is barely true. According to the register.co.uk, global rocket launches deplete the ozone layer by 0.03%. With that being true, the issue should be with car companies, not NASA, to lose their funding, if that is the issue at hand. According to philosophyofscience.com, rockets have resulted in just over 2% of all CO2 exhausts. Experts say that this is extremely unlikely to result in climate change. When a rocket is launched into space, it does leave small parts behind, dust and particles. And according to space.com, NASA has begun to clean up the orbiting space bits in space, despite the fact that it essentially causes no trouble. It can be argued that NASA actually helps the environment, despite the common belief being the contrary. According to HowStuffWorks.com, there are 5 big ways NASA helps the environment. The first is that NASA has done a lot of air quality research. The second is that they have done climate control research. The third is alternative energy research. The fourth is that NASA makes large efforts to educate the public of all their findings. The last is near-Earth object research. The information that NASA has gathered gives projects the information they need to help the environment. This is all information that NASA has provided through their research, not private companies. According to news.oneindia.in, NASA has an asteroid watch protection plan. If NASA's funding is cut and eventually gotten rid of entirely, who is there to protect us from harm? Potentially, an asteroid could collide with the Earth. If NASA is not around to help prevent this or make people aware, the consequences would be much more serious. The statement that NASA's funding should be cut in half is not as simple as it sounds. NASA has many departments, all that need funding and all are important. Picking and choosing what would be cut would be an impossible, extremely time-consuming procedure. The opposing side says that NASA uses only 0.0045% of their total budget. They are watching their budget and making efforts to keep it low. The small amount that NASA does use should not be cut more. The opposing side says that we should explore Earth before we explore space. The Earth is a large planet and we have yet to explore all of the oceans in the world, but without NASA, we would not even be aware of the current locations of the oceans and seas that surround us. NASA is responsible for the creation of maps, and without them we would be living on a planet with undiscovered lands and water. The exploration of space and planets is more beneficial than the exploration of oceans. Through exploring space, we learn more about the universe and have the capability to possibly discover other habitable planets, and there is always the possibility of finding other life. NASA is responsible for much of the technology we have today. This topic leads into the argument that NASA's work can be done by private companies. No company could do everything that NASA does. NASA is so large and technologically advanced that private companies would not be able to produce the same work that NASA has. NASA has many years of experience that no other company in the world has when it comes to space exploration. Private companies would also be more vulnerable to technological piracy from foreign governments, being that their goal is to make money. In conclusion, it would not be beneficial to cut NASA's funding. This would only limit future discoveries and lose protection that NASA supplies us. NASA's damage is minimal, and they make efforts to get rid of the space junk and provide research that helps the environment. NASA's funding is also only a minuscule amount of our national debt. There is much other government spending that should be cut before NASA. We do not know what is out there in the universe. Without NASA, it's unlikely that we ever will. All in all, there is no just reason to cut NASA's funding. Just remember, to infinity and beyond.